Because it is time for our very own Darren Grimes to give us what's been on his mind this week. Darren, take it away.
Well, I'll be on my mind this week. I'm asking the question, has Sir Keir Starmer really changed his party?
I've changed my party.
Is it now not the time for the Prime Minister to admit that he has the blood of thousands of innocent people?
I stumbled across a tweet that's a bitter pill about Labour's misplaced priorities. I thought we were about to play a full video there. It reads, "My mum, in her 80s, scrimping by on pensions, too petrified to heat a flat. Meanwhile, her MPs at PMQs blabbering about Gaza, #Never Labour." Now, to me, this is utter madness. In that video that would have been played there, he actually goes on to talk about how the Prime Minister has blood on his hands, and he goes on and on about Gaza. Now, this is at a time when he has constituents whose seniors are being left to freeze, while MPs like him prattle on about distant lands. If you ask me, Kemi Badenoch absolutely nailed it with this tweet. She says, "Some Labour MPs fancy themselves as global ambassadors, not UK representatives," basically. Tahir Ali's Prime Minister's questions, that was the MP there, the Labour MP. That tirade was a slap to those cherishing British values, thinking Labour shed its Corbyn skin, think again. She's bang on the money if you ask me. Labour's still got this bizarre fixation with prioritising terrorists over Telford and the Middle East over Middlesbrough. Ali's PMQ circus was a national embarrassment, if you ask me. It's like he's more keen on impressing countries that don't give a toss about Britain or our values. Labour constituencies contain far too many of those totally sympathetic to fundamentalists who are anti-Jew, anti-gay and anti-women. And here's a stark reality check from The Times. The Batley Grammar School teacher, a Labour constituency, Batley is, he was hounded for showing a cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad 3 years ago in the classroom. And guess what? He's still in hiding. This raises, if you ask me, serious questions. Can you recall any Labour MP standing up for that man? I can't. Can Labour be trusted to prioritise the rights of individuals like him over extremists and their intimidation tactics? If you ask me, their record, it paints a bleak picture. Labour seem more invested in global grandstanding than in pressing the needs of the people of Britain. I'm incredibly worried about it. Belinda de Lucy.
That was so good.
Well,
God.
apart from missing my video at the start there, but I am worried about it, Belinda.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that in constituencies like Batley, that teacher has been utterly betrayed, and we are sleepwalking into utter disaster.
I think it has shocked a lot of people. The Israeli-Gaza conflict has exposed how MPs, Labour MPs, have such strong allegiances to foreign lands and foreign countries and come across as prioritising other countries above their own interests of their own, of the UK. They don't feel the allegiance here that they should. And
Can you argue that Tory MPs have done that with Israel?
Well, no, because I think...
You clearly could.
You definitely couldn't. David Cameron is now saying we need a two-state solution.
A lot of dual
great idea,
yeah.
Davey. That's never been thought of before. How are the Tories a nest of singing
But I
birds
also think that the Tories aren't in bed with Islamists. They're not necessarily... well, I certainly haven't seen them being Islamist apologists in the way I've seen a lot of left-wingers on the marches.
Definitely.
They're sort of in bed with them, the hard left, the Islamists,
exactly.
And I think that's very scary. If Labour win, and they only win by a small majority, I think they're going to be on the leash by about 20 to 40 MPs who could start exerting a huge amount of power and control over the party. And I'm scared just because, I mean, I talk about the Labour Party, the Tories can't even call out the horrific treatment of this teacher, which is disgusting, because they're scared. They're scared of radical Islamists. It's terrifying that we don't have a party in power that stands up to them.
So, Nana, do you think actually there is a real problem that we're just simply not willing to address the issues there?
I think the Labour Party are hiding because the bottom line is the Tory Party are in such a mess. It doesn't matter what they do or say. So, unfortunately, unfortunately, there is a mess that we can see, but it is being hidden by the behaviour of the Tory party. You're talking about electing another leader now, or not electing, or choosing another leader as we move towards election. I think it is actually partly the failure of the Tory party that's managed to mask a lot of what is going on with the Labour Party, and they have effectively manipulated the media to attack the Tory party because the media are very left-wing. So they have used the absolute incompetence of our current government to hide behind all this, and it's working.
Yeah, I just want to play that clip that we had at the start there, just very quickly, if we get that up.
I've changed my party.
Is it now not the time for the Prime Minister to admit that he has the blood of thousands of innocent people on his hands, and for him to commit to demanding an immediate ceasefire and an ending of UK's arms trade with Israel?
Mr. Speaker, that's the face of the changed Labour Party.
I mean, Benjamin, you must surely agree with the Prime Minister that this is a real telltale sign that the Labour Party hasn't changed.
No, because first of all, I know the Labour Party pretty well, and I have never in my life heard of that MP, and I suspect not a single viewer, unless they live in his constituency, has heard of him. So every party has, people outside of that. But let me just say to you, because you said this before, Keir Starmer's position on Israel and the conflict is basically the same as Rishi Sunak's and David Cameron's. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, it is correct.
And you've said that you agree with Keir Starmer and that he's taken the right position.
But is it not
No.
Is it not also correct that we are about to elect a load of Labour MPs who are absolutely in thrall to the kind of extremists that want to focus on Gaza?
It's not correct at all. It's not, sod all about the Labour Party, Darren Grimes. The fact is that you've selected 220 Labour candidates.
Why did Jess Phillips resign from the shadow cabinet?
Am I going to finish a sentence?
Why did Jess Phillips resign from the shadow cabinet?
Am I going to finish a sentence?
You can't answer the question. Because she resigned over the fact that her constituents...
You know what? This isn't Darren Grimes' Real Britain. This is the Saturday 5, OK? We're all going to have a discussion. The fact is that you can count on one hand the number of Labour candidates that weren't Keir Starmer's choice that have been selected in targets. The Labour Party is incredibly moderate now. And you talk about Labour having not been changed. You acknowledge that you agree with Keir Starmer on Israel. And then you also talk about Batley and the appalling case of what's happened to the teacher. The Labour MP there is a lesbian and was assaulted a great deal by the people you're trying to claim are on Labour's side. They didn't vote for her. And you talk about all these mistakes that happened. They didn't vote for her. They voted for George Galloway. And you talk about all these mistakes that have happened. Tell me, what have the Tory government done about this?
They are both pretty...
This is the exact tactic. This is the tactic. You talk about the Tory party now to cover up what the Labour Party...
But the Labour...
The inadequacy of it. The question was focused on the Labour...
Just on what that MP said, is it an extremist position to call for a ceasefire in Gaza?
Yeah,
that's actually... Hold on a minute, Belinda. That's actually quite a popular position among voters in Britain. It might not be a popular position among, perhaps, people on this panel, but it's not an extreme position to argue that you want a ceasefire in Gaza.
According to the hostages release, yes, it is.
It is an extreme position because what you're asking really is for Israel to disarm.
That's
an extreme. You've not mentioned Hamas. You need to be saying that we need to get Hamas. You need to get Hamas to stop firing rockets. The only reason that Israel does not look like Gaza is because of the Iron Dome. So every day, even before...
So it's wrong for an MP to call for a ceasefire in Parliament?
No, even before this conflict, because the ceasefire actually means Israel disarm.
Exactly.
He has not said Hamas need to stop firing the rockets.
And let's bring up that tweet again, if we can, because that tweet that said about the constituent who lives in his constituency, who actually says, look, my grandmother lives, or mother lives in that constituency, and he actually says, he or she, I'm not sure who it is, says there that they had this one opportunity, that MP, at Prime Minister's Questions, to ask on behalf of his constituents a question on behalf of this woman, and he doesn't actually. He chooses instead to talk about the Middle East.
Yeah.
You can't... Come on.
But look, I am not going to defend this Labour MP, but the point is, what is not to say that maybe this constituency MP had constituents that wanted him to ask about Israel and Gaza.
Exactly. If it's a majority Muslim
what's wrong about that?
It has lots of people from that part of the world. It probably has had lots of inbox about that. But I'd just point out, you're saying he didn't ask the Tories why his mother or grandmother's pension isn't good enough and then trying to blame Labour for that. That's desperate.
No, it's not.